Radio Retrofuture.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Radio Retrofuture. Today I have with me Barry Kirsch, also known as the Portrist, with his latest adventure, the Steampunk Adventure Club. How are you doing, Barry?
I'm doing great. I'm great. Thank you.
Okay. Before we continue with the questions on the Steampunk Adventure Club, I want to address the audience for a bit. And if you enjoy these episodes, please consider giving these videos a like. And of course, subscribe if you haven't already. And share on your social media to support the show. And of course, if you really enjoyed this episode, also please consider donating to our Patreon for just $1 a month. You would help us greatly to advance the project and get other people involved without me having to beg for everything. Okay, back to you, Barry. So, let's just start with, what do you do in your daily life before we get onto your steampunk existence?
Well, my career has been as an investigative photojournalist. I shoot news stories around the world, things like that. And I also do commercial photography, and that has kind of branched out into cosplay, and in particular, steampunk. So right now I'm doing a lot of steampunk themed photography.
And how did that happen? Did you always want to be a photographer, or is that something that just happened?
Was headed to school to be a theoretical physicist, and I discovered photography, and everything went downhill or over the hill or something like that from there on. I became a news photographer at 17 and stayed with that for 42 years.
Oh, wow. And how did with the cosplay happen? Was that something you stumbled upon and was like, yeah, this is my thing?
Yeah, stumbled upon is kind of right. I was doing some portraiture, traditional style portraiture, and a friend of mine who does cosplay photography kept trying to get me into a convention, and I no, don't have time. And finally he threatened me, "You're coming, or I'll kill you." And so I went, and I was amazed by all these people, all these fantastic creators, their beautiful interpretations on costuming and how they played the roles, and the way they treated each other. And I thought that, that's really pretty special, and eventually led me into steampunk. Right.
And what made steampunk stand out for you?
Well, I had a weekend, and I was with nothing really to shoot, so I put out some things on Facebook, like, I need this. And some pirates came and we photographed them. Then I said, I'd like to have a couple steampunk people, and I've never photographed before. And so a couple came by, RJ and his wife, Rosanna, and they spent more than half a day in my studio, and it's just amazing. All the things on his arm, his gauntlet, all those things worked. The costumes were beautiful. They were great people, and my wife and I, when they left, we just looked at each other. I mean, basically, we were hooked. Not just to photograph them, but to do it ourselves, and that's what's happened.
So what happened from there? You became the Portrist.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about how that evolved?
Well, everybody has a personality, an identity, and that's one of the things I really like about steampunk. You can only have so many Spider-Man and Batman. In steampunk, everybody's personality is unique. Mm-hmm. And because I am a photographer anyway, and I was shooting portraits at the time, I thought that would be a good character. And I actually got the name at MegaCon when I was photographing this couple, and two girls watched me and watched what I did, and then they went on their way. The next year, I came back and I was photographing another guy, and those same two girls in the same two costumes came walking by, and they looked at me and they stopped, and the one says, I remember you. You're that poor, and she was trying to say the word portrait. She couldn't get the word out. And finally she said, "You're that Portrist guy." I go, yeah, it's me. And the people I was photographing said, yeah, that's a great name for you. So it stuck. And I'm the Portrist now. So that's how that happened.
Would you say he's also a fictional character in the sense that he actually has a background story and a character that's different from yours?
Oh yeah. He's as a news photographer, I stay in the background. I take pictures, and I'm you see my work, but you never really know I'm around. Now the Portrist, he's just the opposite of me. He takes pictures, and everybody knows he's around because he's doing his thing and directing people around and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, he's got a background. He is not only the personal portrait photographer to the world's most exotic, interesting, and peculiar people. He's also a major in the National Intelligence Service, and we don't tell you which nation, but he's kind of like a spy. And so one day we may be photographing the Queen, and later that night we're stealing secrets from her vault. So that kind of thing.
Okay. Can people actually find that story somewhere, or is that just something you tell at conventions?
Well, it is on the part of it is on the Adventurers Club website, and the rest of it is about to be added to it. So.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's a good segue into today's subject. So let's just start. What is the Adventurers Club going to be?
Well, I've been watching Steampunk for a while now, and my wife and I go to different, conventions and events and things like that. There's several of them around Central Florida, and one thing I noticed is that most of the clubs are like Facebook groups and things like that. There are a lot of members, but when it comes time to do something, not many people show up a lot of times, right? So, and for whatever reason, they have work and things like that. And there's really no place for them. They exist in the internet world, but not in a real place. And also, in the last few years, since we started getting into Steampunk, it's become more than just a fad. It's now actually, in my opinion, a lifestyle. I mean, you can look at any fashion show, advertisements and things, and you will see a lot of times you will see steampunk influence, if not outright steampunk, in those ads, right? So we decided that maybe it's time that we gave steampunk a physical place for the Adventurers Club, so people could actually come here and meet and do things, and we want to do a little bit more than just hang out and say, well, let's make goggles or something. We want to actually go on adventures, and we're looking to have members from around the world, like in the Netherlands where you're at, so that we really do have a worldwide presence, and that means we communicate back and forth, that type of thing. And we kind of want to take it back to a simpler time. So, like in the show with This Just In, it's one of those things when we go in other news, we'll be reading letters and cards from people. And I would rather have people send me an actual letter with a stamp on it like they used to do, so that we can actually hold it up and show people this came from one of our members in New Zealand or a member in Atlanta or whatever, and they'll write us a letter. We can show that, we can read that on air, we can show photographs that they've actually printed and sent to us, and these things will actually go into the Adventurers Club itself to help build that world of who we are. So we're actual adventurers. People will take pictures. If they go to France, they take the SAC banner with them and they pose with that banner, so you see the pictures of them and our banner all over the world doing different things. And I think it's a real interactive experience that's more than just clicking and going through a timeline on Facebook or something, right?
Right. And all those, so that's going to be a kind of, are you going to just publish it on your website, or is it something you're gonna put on YouTube or another social media outlet?
Yes, all of it will be on the website. Of course, have a portal back to Facebook and like YouTube, to expand what we do. So yes, it's in social media as well, but the website is that, and of course the Adventurers Club, the building, is the host for all of it, where the physical things go, because people want to send us things. I get requests, well, I made this, can I send it to you? Well, I didn't have any space for those kinds of things before, but now we've got a giant place. And we're going to be asking for people that wanted to send those things before to go ahead and do that, so we can populate our plate. Because part of our thing is a room called a collection, which is like a steampunk museum of sorts, and it will have things that are real from nature, things that people have found, bugs and stuff like that. But it also might have a bug that somebody made out of wash. So those things become part of the collection. All the letters and cards and photos become Hope's floating head called Professor Headley. He's the head of the mailroom. And, so it's a lot of interactiveness between our location and members throughout the world. Mm-hmm. And that's what we do, is really build that world membership, because I've made friends all over the world through Steampunk and Facebook. And now I'd like to take that to the next level and build something that people can actually use. And it's a place that they can actually come and visit and have a good time and have tea with us or watch a show or do whatever.
Mm-hmm. And how do you intend to involve people from, let's say, Europe? It's not, cheap to send physical mail to the United States. So how do you intend to do that? Are you going to do a show similar to this, or?
Well, like I said, we'll have Steampunk Nation with the Portrist, which is more oriented to like builders and authors, writers, artists, that kind of thing. And then we have this in show, and that just in is those will be able to be local people and others that we can actually kind of like you and pick them up and bring them in into our feed and do an interview or a quick show, that kind of thing. Yes, and while not everybody can come here, sending a letter once every now and then is not that big a deal, and it really gets that connection, because email is fast and you can send photos and all that, but it's really not the same. People really like it when an actual, I can't really remember, other than on birthday or Christmas, that I got something like that. And I think it would be nice to get back to those days, kind of, where you think about things, you put pen to paper, and you send it. That takes a little forethought, it takes some effort, and it lets people think, well, you really care because you invested this time to actually do that. And it's part of the going back to the days when people had lots of manners and they treated people with respect and all of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's an interesting philosophy. So we already talked about the kind of what you intend to do media-wise. Are there any other? Well, let's just talk about the interior of the club. What's that going to be like?
Well, it is a really big empty space right now. It's divided up basically into roughly 3 big sections. One of them, the first ones that we'll start, will be the tea room, and that's Iodora boilerplate tea room. Then there's an outfitter's spot in there, which is kind of like a store for people who come in and want to learn about steampunk. They say, I would like to do this, but they don't have anything. So they might be able to buy a set of goggles or a hat, just get started things, simple corset or whatever. Then we have the expedition room, which is a very high-end, kind of like a boardroom, but extremely hardcore steampunk. We have, and of course, we have different areas for like lounges and things like that, the collection. And then we have the Adventurer's Ballroom, which is a giant place with 30-foot high ceilings and giant beams and things like that. So we can have parties in there and meetings and conventions. I mean, it's just a really big space. I've been uploading pictures to our website and then sending them off to Facebook about what some of those interior walls look like, and I think you posted one of them as the announcement for this.
One of the concept drawings. Yeah.
Yes, the concept drawings, and those are done by an amazing craftsman. His name is Brendan McWilliams. He owns a company called Dark Veil Studios, and he builds and things for Universal Studios. And he's got a bunch of friends that work with him, and both at Universal and Disney and other places, and they make amazing movie props and sets and stuff like that. And so, along with them, you know, actually I'm not that talented as those guys, so I get to paint a lot. They do the building, and I should paint and stuff. So, but we'll have that look, that industrial factory type look. And while you may have a real, you know, mechanical type looking table, once you lay a lace tablecloth on top of that and put a beautiful teacup on there, then that softens that look and brings the Victorian part into the factory part. And so it really tones down the harshness, but still is so cool to be in a space like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the theme is that way all the way through. And it's all about adventurers, because first we are adventurers, you know, people that explore the Nile and climb the high mountains and do all these different things, go under the water and all that stuff. But then we're steampunk adventurers. So that adds that steampunk flair and lifestyle to, you know, adventurers.
And what was the Eureka moment that said, yeah, we're gonna start this? Like Dave Lee asked in the comments, did you win did you hit the lotto or something? How did you?
Oh, the lottery? I wish. Yeah, I wish. Well, it's something that I had thought about a couple years ago, and we actually started the Steampunk Adventurers Club before I really had an idea for the location. And then we moved up to Sanford from the Orlando area, just 1800s mainly. So a lot of the architecture is here. My house was built in 1917. Beautiful, tiny little house, but there's architecture that fits right in with the steampunk world all around us. And I started looking at property, and finally, you know, been discussing that with Brendan from Dark Vale, and we're kind of partnering in it. And it was just a matter of, we finally found this space and hit the timing just right, and suddenly here we are. So yes, it is expensive, but I think it'll be worth it in the long run, because once it's built out, it will make us an attraction, you know, kind of like Disney and Universal. Not that big, obviously, but something that people can go to, which is only 20 minutes away from those areas, 20 minutes to half an hour. And, you know, steampunk people can go, because everybody comes to Orlando, they go see those things, right? But if you're a steampunk, you can do that, and then a half hour later, come and visit us and see all cool things, and see what steampunk people from around the world have sent into us, because we're more than just us. It's all the things that people send to us that we blend into the storyline of the building and the organization. So, you know, our plan is to, from that place, really do adventures, really go places as a group, and to do more than play croquet in the park. I mean, I'm talking about, let's go explore someplace. And of course, that's going to take some development over time, but this is really the catalyst that really gets all those other things going. You have to have that kind of home base, and you know, to get going.
Okay. So, what kind of attractions can ordinary visitors expect when they visit the Steampunk Adventurers Club?
Well, when we're done, when it's fully finished, people can come in. If there's not events going on in there, because people will be able to use our space for other events just because the rent is very high. They'll be able to come in and look through stuff in the store, which is really cool. Very unique things in there. Have tea in the tea room. Looking around through the collection and some of the other places that we have, because every inch of this place is steampunk, all of it. And then, you know, we have, of course, the Adventurers Ballroom, and it's a gigantic place. And so there's a lot of things you can do there. You can just hang out. You can talk to other people, you know, have little group meetings, things like that, and share in the things that they're doing. One of the things that we are offering, as soon as it's built, is we have different levels of membership. And for people that are adventurers, the adventurer level, they can send us a teacup and a saucer, right? And we do an installation ceremony. We unwrap it. This teacup came from, you know, Professor Blowhard and, you know, Nepal or whatever. And so we do this video thing, and the cup gets unwrapped, you know, like people do the ceremonies of unwrapping their iPhone. But it'll be a teacup, and then it goes onto the special teacup wall, with their name, a little plaque that goes under their name. Their cup gets mounted in there, and their name goes on there. And if ever they come in, they have tea with their cup in our spot. So it's just little things like that that let people participate and say, you know what, one of my teacups is in that place. No. So people can have ownership of our space.
I like it. Dave Lee, I'd like to suggest an expedition to the center of the Earth, which is Luray Caverns in Luray, Virginia. They filmed the 1990s film there, and he'd be happy to help organize.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what we're looking for. Things that we can do. There's a lot of things that you can do that's fun, that's educational, and it fits right in with adventurers, right? We don't have to be discovering things, but you can have an adventurer. You can have a great adventure just going places and learning things with a bunch of cool people that share the same interests that we do, and that being the steampunk base.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm also thinking right now, like, what can I do? But let's save that for another time. What I want to ask is, like, you already talked about, like, the going on adventures, the including fictional characters into the story of the Adventurers Club. Are you actually thinking of doing some sort of a play or series for like things like YouTube?
Well, kind of. We have another partner company that we're forming a partnership with now, and they're called Fanvergence, and they do thematic, interactive, immersive plays, and it's kind of like LARP, live action role play.
Oh, right.
But they tailor stories to events, like maybe a convention, or it could be a bunch of heart doctors, and they do some Wild West story that goes through the entire Heart Doctors convention. So they've put together a storyline about the Steampunk Adventurers Club, and so they will, if things go like we anticipate, we'll be rolling out their story, or they'll be rolling out their story of what we're doing while we're doing it. And it's like a play that's almost live action. It's writing itself as it goes somewhat. And it's ongoing. If we do something, here comes a crate from Darkvale, and what is in there? And it's the mystery, and we, hit the crowbar and bring it out, break it open, and all this stuff comes out, and there's a mummy head in there or something. And they're talking about it and doing all this stuff. And of course, we're doing it on our end. So, and people can come and watch this show of things going on. And because where we're located in town, we're right off the center square, the center of the historic town. So we just open our doors, we're right there, and we can spread our show really literally outside the door and into town, right there. And that would bring people and to see what we're about, what we're doing, and have fun. Because it's all about not just performing for somebody, but grabbing you and bringing you into the story, so that you become part of the story and of course, part of the SAC.
Very interesting. Have you considered doing something with Brian Oliver of Tales of a Broken Reality, by any chance?
No, I actually don't know him.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll send you a link to the interview that he did. I think it might actually interest you. But it's a web series that also includes other groups and people and storylines. So we'll be doing something for him in January. We hope to shoot if everything goes well. So, but I'll send you the link.
Sure.
Yeah. What else? Yeah. Are there any other activities you haven't mentioned yet? You think of doing other attractions or media?
Well, we are part of the outreach, so to speak, of the Adventurers Club is when we go to events outside of our building, like to conventions and things like that, and just to things that we do on our own, we have something that we call encampments. And what that is like the big campaign tents that they used to have, like during World War I and the Civil War, with the giant tents, and the officers would be in there. So our thing is we do that with steampunk people, and then we have a storyline that runs through each encampment. So we may have 20, 30 big tents somewhere, and at night people are going to have tea with the Portrist, and then half an hour after that they have crumpets with, you know, Lady Iodora, and then on, and Professor Copperpot, like that. But meanwhile, throughout that whole like weekend, it would be like a weekend event, there's some storyline that goes through there. And so the people that are at the encampment work on the story. It's, you know, solve a mystery, or do this, or rescue somebody, or whatever the story is. And when that's over, they win campaign medals that are designed just for that campaign at that encampment. So, you know, steampunk love badges and medals and stuff, but there are no medals really that mean anything. Well, ours actually will. You can actually earn them for doing something, and that, I think, is one of the things that sets us apart. And that's something that we can worldwide. You know, we can have an encampment anywhere in the world. We can have one in the Netherlands.
Okay. Well, keep us posted. It's funny because Ragtag has actually a very similar relationship to its medals, except that we don't do as much plays as we do kids activities. Like we have a storm course for kids. Last time we had Halloween. We have a kind of a haunted trench part. I am not sure you're familiar with them. Ragtag. So,
that's very cool. We also have a project that we're working on with the Seminole State College. Big school. It's got 60,000 students in it here in Seminole County. And we are in partnership with them. The SSE is putting on a recreation of the 1894 World's Fair in Chicago.
Oh, wow.
So giant circus tent and tons of music and actors and artists, because that was one of the turning points in the world's history when all this technology came together. It's where Tesla showed his lights for the first time really in a large scale, and literature and all these things happened there. And the event lasts a week, and it's immersive. So you have all these college students in there, tons of steampunk people, you know, writers doing all the stuff coming together in this one place. And it should be a really amazing event. So it's all about literacy for college students. Literacy is more than just what they read, it's how they consume TV and movies and all that stuff too.
Oh, wow. Did we, any other projects?
Well, right now the main thing is the SAC building. That's going to take my whole life for the next 6 months, I think.
Yeah, that's when you expect to have all the rooms done, right?
I'm hoping that 6 months from December, we should have pretty much all of it finished. Well, yeah. I mean, it will never be finished, but all of it open. Because it's one of those things, as things keep coming in, we'll be adding them to the building.
Exactly.
But yeah, fully operational.
Yeah. When will the first room open?
Excuse me. The tea room and the outfitters, we're hoping to have that open by the end of January. Okay. So we have a lot to do, pretty short time, but it's doable because we have really good people. Dark Veil people are really great at building.
All right. Yeah.
And I can paint.
Okay. So, what was the biggest challenge you faced when you started this project? Like, was there a moment you were like, oh, no, I had enough, you know, you reached that breaking point that you were like, what did I even start?
Well, I mean, you have that feeling actually before you even sign the lease. But, you know, it is a big place, and there's a lot to do. But I have faith in people. I know the what they do. I admit to this. A lot of people are about it. They want to help. They want to send us things, that kind of thing. So, and the town here in Sanford is excited about us being here. That's really a motivation booster, you know, knowing that the town is excited about you being there. And I think we're going to offer something that's unique, that people can get their arms around and embrace. It is expensive, though. I mean, you know, very much so. Putting out a giant factory place and turning it into this club costs a lot of money. So that's why we are kind of hurry to get some things open so it can start generating income to help us finance the rest, right? And people say, well, why don't you do a Kickstarter thing or this or that? And while we could, I think really the best way that, if people want to donate money to us, really the best way to help us is by joining as a member.
Right.
Because then that helps us financially, but at the same time, you have skin in the game, right? You have skin in the game. You're part of this club, this building, this experiment in what we're doing. And you can be proud of the fact that in some way, shape, or form, you helped make all this happen. And being a member, you get access to things, inside things, and abilities, because we have activity things people can post on forums and stuff like that. They can share photos. We have an in-house system that's very similar to Facebook, but it's only for our members.
Right.
People can, certain level members can advertise their business to all steampunk people, because that's all who's on here, right? And so there's a lot of closed in-house connections who would be your customers. If I make goggles and I'm a member of this giant place where everybody's steampunk, well, I mean, everybody there is potential clients of yours. And at the very least, they'll see your artwork and see what you do and can share and spread the word for everybody, So I think it's a win-win for everybody involved. But the key is to get, people involved.
Yeah, but it's kind of like a Patreon. Then.
In a sense, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And how can people sign up to be a member?
Well, they just go to steampunkadventurersclub.com, and at the bottom of the main page is a thing called benefits. Just click on that, and it tells you a little bit about the different levels, and you can just register from right there. It takes only a few minutes, and it's very easy, and it works. So, and like I said, everybody that joins helps.
Okay.
So,
yeah. Have we covered everything?
I think for the most part, yes. Our like I said, we're not building this just for us. Mm-hmm. My hope and dream is that steampunk people around the world, and there's millions now, all over the world, will see this for what it is. It's a place for all of us to say, I belong. I belong. I'm here in my country or city or wherever, but I belong to that group, and I do things that affect them. They do things that affect me, and together we're one big worldwide organization who can share our adventures. And because that's one of the things we do. You tell your tall tales, about I was in deep dark jungle and such, and then this, and I came through the corner and a T-Rex was chasing me. Then I saw the Portrists out there taking pictures. And so we stopped, had some tea real quick, and then I kept running because the T-Rex kept coming. So people can share stories and background histories. Excuse me. A place for builders to share information. How did you make that? One of the things that amazed me is the sheer quality of steampunk builders. People make all kinds of things, and it's stunning the quality of work that so many people do, whether they make things out of metal or they make leather work, or they write stories, beautiful steampunk stories, or make little films, or music, all of that. I mean, that's really, when you take all those things as a whole, that's everything that people do in the world, right? Mm-hmm. It's just our steampunk world. And so let's all share that through here, and a place where we can actually come together and do real things. And also, it's give back to the community, because the more we do and people see us and see how we behave and that kind of thing, it makes people feel good. Everywhere I've been, dressed in steampunk and being the Portrist, and other people that I've seen, they're dressed up. People in the community, they really appreciate and I think learn, because it's always a feel-good thing, and Lord knows we can use as much of that as we can, right?
It's time for the words of inspiration.
So words from me?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. Well, inspiration. Wow. Okay. Yeah. One of the things that we're gonna put a sign outside the Adventurers Club. Lots of them are saying no smoking and stuff like that. Our sign says no religion, No politics allowed inside. Weapons are okay. We'll go with that. How about that?
Yeah, sure, no problem. Yes, Barry, thank you for this very ambitious and inspiring subject we talked about. Yeah, for all you listeners out there, as always, please have a wonderful day and make it your way.
Much with the north versus dry and cold and dark and red, and I prefer green, fresh, sun earth texture.
For Steampunk, for example, Future is one of the greatest inspirations. It's funny how something that hasn't happened yet can inspire such huge and massive creativity.
Don't have too much respect for the old literature and play with literature. That's what I like everyone to do.
Get your stuff done. Get your stuff done. They're waiting on you.
Do it all once more. Watch me.